You ever thought about investing in the States? You didn't know where to start. You don't have a power team. I got the perfect guest coming on today. Serial entrepreneur, just became a mortgage broker. Nate Aktin from Hummingbird Capital. Hey, thanks so much for coming on, brother.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, man, we've been trying to get you on for a while. This investing in the States is blowing up. And the first name that came in my head was Nate.
I appreciate it, brother.
The first person that came in my head, I was like, Nate told me about this like 4 or 5 events ago. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, we've been meaning to connect. We've both been busy, so I appreciate it.
Sure.
Glad we could make it work for sure.
Amazing. And you got exciting news that you want to share with us too. Now you're on the financing side of things.
Yeah, it's been a while now, but actually I'm close to being able to make an announcement of a mortgage brokerage that I'm joining hands with.
Awesome.
That's going to really provide people with a lot of good lending options. So that official announcement's coming out soon. But yeah, man, I got you covered here. Locally, it's mortgages and financing and private lending. And then in the States, real estate investment opportunities.
Oh my God. You got it all covered, man.
Lots to talk about, my man.
Lots to talk about. That's amazing. So the question that I want to start with is, how did Nate get started in this real estate journey? Tell me about Nate as a little kid. How was Nate as a little? I know you're a sports guy.
Yes.
Heavy into the sports. Your
question,
kid's heavy
man.
into the sports, so I know you're heavy into the sports. But I don't think you were into basketball, so you're into other sports.
Well, I'll tell you what, I grew up, good question. It's funny because people see me now, they've seen like the real estate investor, they see the mortgage agent, they see the fitness guy and all this kind of stuff. But man, I'll tell you, I grew up like a chubby, freckle-faced kid in like this neighborhood in Etobicoke, opposite of the guy that people know now, shy. They see me speaking at events and this kind of stuff. So, listen, you can change your story. Anyone can change their story,
Yeah.
But yeah, not to go too far back. I grew up in a great family. Love my parents. My mom's my rock. Awesome. And likewise, I got 2 boys of my own now. We live in Oakville. And man, I'll tell you, started off, went to university. Mm-hmm. So the real estate question you had, how did it start really? Went to university, came out of university, and my brother, who worked for my father at the time in my father's property management company, right? So my brother's like, Nate, you got to come and work with us because dad's an old dog. He won't evolve. He won't change anything. So he'll listen to you though because you went to university and he paid for it. So it's like so you got to come and you got to jump in here, right? So I'm like So growing up with a dad with a property management company, we were always like
awesome.
we were always like delivering notices. And,
so you were always around this whole
always
business.
Around real estate property management to some extent. Always growing up, like literally my dad is old school, so it's like we're doing the grunt work. We're cleaning out catch basins and we're like we're scrubbing the blood and stuff out of stairwells in like really rough places.
Where was that in?
All Etobicoke, like GTA West, pretty well, right?
West,
Yeah. So that's kind of like, so of course my reluctance after graduating from Western, I'm like, you want me to come work with what, right?
What'd you think at Western?
I'm like, what, man? So Western was, so my minor was in psychology.
Oh.
Yeah, psychology was my minor, and then with an HB, so business kind of focused area and building sciences after that, right? So my passion has always been like business and building sciences, engineering and construction. Love it. So when I graduated, went there, worked for the property management company, and helped to scale it and grow it and did all that kind of stuff and was a property manager and did all these things on the business side and learned pretty quickly that I don't love property management. I don't love property management. I love people. I love real estate. I love construction and restoration and value add and all these things. And I met a lot of people who were investing in real estate. I wasn't at the time. I was a young man. And then I'm like, what's with all this over here? I want to see what's over here.
Is the grass greener on the other side?
I want to learn about this, right? So the curiosity kind of spiked, and as I learned more about it, I started reading some books and had a few mentors, which I can't speak enough about. And I was like, that's it. I got to jump in. So ended up having it was a tough kind of part part of the C's from me with the family business, and that's a whole different podcast, man. You know, it's hard. The family business is hard. You know, that was tough,
I came
man.
out of a
That was
family
rough,
business.
rough.
I know exactly
Rough
how
partying.
it is.
It was rough, man. Rough partying. But the
yeah.
beautiful side of it was, on the other side, led me into actually starting a construction company that focuses on aluminum windows and doors for multi-residential buildings.
Awesome.
So I actually started a company, which I actually own and operate still to this day, and it's we replace high-rise buildings, windows, and doors. So some of our biggest clients are some of the biggest REITs across the country, right?
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah. So again, learning about REITs and learning about investing and seeing that side.
Your mind was just blown, eh?
Well,
With
yeah,
all that
man.
you can learn. There's so much.
Man, it was a natural progression into where led me into, you know, my wife and I buying our very first multifamily property, which was a fourplex, right? So most people are like, oh, I gotta get a duplex or do a conversion. Or back then you could actually buy a single family home. Cash flow, I'm like, nah, you know, let's do it, right? So we bought a fourplex with a BRRRR strategy in mind, and that was the bug. You know, having property management and construction knowledge at a high level made it different for me than other people, because I was really, really good at the two things that people hate, offload, don't know what to do, are overwhelmed with, right? Construction, restoration, tendering, contractors, and property management.
That's the hardest part, Nate. I talk about it enough on my podcast. Sourcing contractors, vetting contractors, picking the right contractor, making sure that you don't pay too much.
Painful.
Making sure that they're on budget, they're on time, and all of that stuff. And then after that's all said and done, vetting tenants.
Yeah, no, listen, man, like the reality was that it was so natural, and I hate to use the word easy because nothing's easy in this field. Nothing's easy. So not easy, but it was natural, and there wasn't a resistance from me in terms of skill set, in terms of comfort level. I'm like, this is my jam. I've been doing this literally my whole life, right? So that was kind of easy for me to get into real estate investing in that regard, right? So that was the beginning of Nate in this field. And, you know, you mentioned, you know, family. For me, family is literally everything. My whole life revolves around my family. Me too. Everything, right? 100%. So it was fun to, you know, get my older son and his buddies in for the demoing properties. You know,
you got
my younger son now in there. Oh, listen, man, I'm all about it, right? So they're in there, they're ripping up tiles and tearing stuff apart and demoing, right? So that's been a lot of fun as well. As a family, doing it together is so rewarding.
It makes you gel. There's and you have boys and the camaraderie. You know, it's, you know, that's great. And like, you know, the funny thing is, I was working in a family business too before I came, and it was really hard to depart from a family business. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, the stuff you learn in that family business, at that time, you don't know how valuable it is.
Good point. Yeah.
And then afterwards, when you start progressing into the business that you want to go into, you're like, wow, I picked that up. My people skills, I picked that up doing that. And I picked that up doing that. And you're like, wow, how valuable the stuff I didn't think was valuable at that time, because I went to college and university, and I was like, you know, why am I doing this job when I could be? You always think you could do better.
Yeah.
Because you did university, you went to university, you went to college, and they always put this, like, I'd say, pipe dream in your head. When you go to university, college, nothing against university and college is great. You have to experience it. Go for it. It's just that they make you feel like you're better than certain jobs, right? And then when you don't you don't feel like you're reaching your potential. You feel like you're lowering yourself and doing a job.
Yeah, and you know what contributes to that problem even more so now is that, you know, with social media and with the misconception for younger folks, and I say younger, I mean now as in like high teens to mid-20s, they have this misconception because of they're watching their favorite YouTuber or their favorite person on Instagram or TikTok.
God, yeah.
They think that a lot of what they see, they think, first of all, they think it's reality. And then they think that their starting point should be here. And it's no fault of their own, but in reality, you know, like in our day, they used to say you don't start as the president, right? But now for young kids, it's like, if they're not making X number of dollars a year, or if they don't have this title, or they're not already making 7 streams of income and they're 23, they think that they're failing. But I'm here to say that that's not true. Don't feel that way. Building the perspective that you just mentioned takes years 100%. And experience and 100%. Failures and mentors and teachers and more failures. And, you know, I say it to my oldest son, you know, who's 23. I say to him, it's like, you're doing an amazing job, son. Don't be in such a rush.
Yeah, they're in a
Don't be in
rush.
such a rush.
This generation seems like they're in a rush, and I have a lot. Like I have a nonprofit, so I have soccer teams and basketball teams. I help a lot in the community, and I'm like, oh, I got to do this and I got to do that. I'm like, relax. You're 21 years old.
It's easy for us to say, right?
Yeah.
But we know. I remember me at that age, like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so now I'm wise enough now to be like, I know that I can say it. It's going to fall on deaf ears, and I know that they have to go through it themselves, and it'll take that time. But yeah, it is definitely a whole different perspective with the younger generation and in the way that we see them, right? So I like to help them out and mentor them in any way we can. Yeah,
100%. And who's big on that? Gary Vee. I don't know if you watch Gary Vee and his stuff, and he's like, you're okay if you don't make it by 30 or 35. Keep going. And I have a philosophy. You got to throw a million things at the wall. Something will stick. But you got to try. You have to fail.
That's how you learn about yourself, right?
Exactly.
True. Yeah. Don't be, the biggest thing too is, don't be afraid to go after it, right? Like the biggest mistake you can make is, and sometimes it's ingrained in us from our parents or different things that are said to us over the years, right? It's, lack of belief in ourselves, lack of confidence. It's like, no, you know what? If you want to go after something, go after it. And if you fail, it's all good. It's all good. You get up, you take another route, you try again, right? But like you said, try, give it something, you gotta try. Give it a shot, right?
It's hard when you're younger
because
you don't have that experience yet. But when you have that experience and that mileage,
you're
like, you know what? I'm choking up a little bit. Maybe I need an oil change.
Yeah. No, you're right, man. And having that perspective, being older, it is a lot easier, right? When you're young, something bad happens, the whole world's collapsing.
You're devastated, right? You're
Yeah.
devastated. So that's great, man. You got the family involved. They're doing demo with you.
Yeah.
I've met one of your sons, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you've met him a few times. Yeah.
He's helping out at the real estate events, Danielle and Corey's events.
Yeah.
And he's all in it, and I love it, man.
A lot of people ask about that, how that started. And it started off with me feeling like there's no financial literacy or education in the school system, really, like real life practical knowledge, like how to balance your books, what credit is, and what a mortgage is.
How to write a check.
How to write a check, right? Like the little things, which they'll never need to know anymore, right? But write a check, right? What's that? Your dinosaurs, right? But no, it's for real. It's true. There's no financial literacy, so. We started off doing what we call, in my house, it's called grow school, right? Or like get your bread up, my son calls it school, right? Where literally like we just started not that long ago, where once a week, mostly in the summer, we're consistent enough with it because of their schedules. Each person in the family picks one topic on anything to do with investing, finances, can be anything to do with anything, internet, business, whatever it is, and teach it to the rest of the family, right? So there's 4 of us, my wife and I and our 2 sons. So like, for example, one week, my one son might pick drop shipping. The other one will pick, like I'll do like, of course, a real estate topic naturally, right? And my other son will do, like some kind of email marketing or Facebook, like a topic that they want to learn about. So they research it and then they teach it to everyone else.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it was kind of cool, right? So that kind of we haven't been as consistent with it as I'd like, just because it's hard with my boys' schedules. And my one son right now is in Halifax. But the idea, though, is that the educational system is not providing that to the next generation. So when my younger son started to show a little bit of interest in what I do, which is go to events often. I speak quite often. I'm providing people. He sees me on Zoom all the time. I'm educating people. I'm learning myself with my coaches and educators.
Yeah.
Eventually he started asking like, oh yeah, what's up with that, Dad? And what's that one? And what's that event? And I was like, without pushing it, because they'll push back, right? Reverse psychology is like, you wouldn't be interested in that. Don't worry about it, And then eventually it's like, oh, let me check that out. So then, eventually he came with me to one event. And then what happened naturally at the time, I think at the time he was still 14. He's a star because everyone's like, whoa, how old are you? You're here. Good for you. That's amazing. You're gonna be so successful because you're here. And I wish I was there when I was your age. So he started to be like, damn, this is pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where he had asked. We had helped him volunteer with Danielle and Corey's events. Yeah. Which is it's close to our house. It's nearby. It helps him with his volunteer hours, but it exposes him to all of these incredible knowledge assets, which are basically it's financial education. Right? So he's there, he's absorbing it all, he's helping, and then he becomes a star. So I literally kid you not, I now go to events. I can go to an event in, it can be across the town, across the province, and people will be like, hey, Nate, what's up? Where's Bray? I'm like, oh, man, where is he? Right so now they know who he is. So he loves that. He feeds off of that. So
and you know what?
Get him involved.
Your network is your net worth. We always say it. And he's 14.
He's 15 now.
15 years old.
now. Yeah.
By 25 years old, he knows everybody.
Just the knowledge. It's just it's being around. It's even just the way of thinking, like an entrepreneur or like an investor, right? He's learned over the years just from. I didn't have that growing up because I had old school parents, but now knowing about little things like assets and in what you can do with your money and debt versus good debt versus bad debt, credit, the little things that I didn't even know they were important. I take for granted being able to now teach it to them at an early age where at least through osmosis it's in their brain somewhere. Whatever they choose to do, I'm cool with it, but at least they have those good habits. There's spending habits, that kind of stuff, right?
It's very important. I remember being a young kid and going with my dad to places, and the experiences that you have as a young kid, it resonates with you when you get older, right? And you're just like, you remember those things. And, as 14, 15 years old, you're just starting to see the world, right? You're just starting to realize what you like and what you don't like. And to be around the powerhouse, like according to Danielle's events are always powerhouse people, powerhouse speakers.
Absolutely.
To be able to be around those kind of people and learn from those people, and even younger people that are coming, like 25, 30-year-olds, they're going to see him and they're going to be like, man, good for you. And it's going to encourage him to keep coming. So I love that, man. I see that he's putting in the work, and he's putting in the work on the basketball court too.
Yeah, hey, listen, man, is he ever? Yeah, that's his thing, basketball.
I seen you playing basketball. I'm like, no.
Listen, funny. The other day we played together. I have not been able to beat him in one-on-one for since he was probably 12. I'm not even kidding, right? The other day we played together, and I think it was like 21-0. He destroys me, so I'm cool with it. I'm good with that.
Yeah, you just give you some skates, eh?
Give me skates. That's a different story. That's my sport.
That's your sport. Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And family is super important, and that's what we're doing this for. We're all doing this for family, right? At the end of the day. So, what led you to the States? What made you say, "Hey, Canada, I got." I know you do investing in Canada. I know you got some stuff in Hamilton. You told us about the fourplex.
Yes.
I'm sure you have other investments in Canada and Ontario, maybe Hamilton.
Hey, listen, I love Canada. I am not going to be one of these guys who's going to bad talk Canada. I got investments here. I've got a mortgage company here. Like I'm an agent. I love it, and I think that Canada has a ton of value. I think that Canada, with the demand for housing, population growth, for sure. Metrics are here.
It's massive.
But the U.S. Yes, why? Good question. A minute ago, we talked about family, and it's funny because people don't know this, but I'm actually a dual citizen. I'm an American.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. By birth, my mother's American.
Okay.
So I'm a dual citizen, and so once I got involved with real estate investing, heavily, and was investing myself, and started, a company, a real estate investing company. Okay. All the metrics, I learned all about the metrics here, and then I was at a family function, and one of my cousins,
family function in the States.
In the States. Okay. And one of my cousins, who I grew we're the exact same age. One of those cousins that every single family event you go to, that's your boy, right? Like everything. We're causing trouble. We're knocking stuff down. We're over here. We're doing this. We're trick or treating together. Like that. That's your boy, right?
Yeah.
Charles, his name is. And so we're talking. He's an engineer for the state of New York. That's what he does for a living.
Nice.
And so we're talking, and of course, being a real estate geek, every event I'm at, I talk about real estate to the point where like these people love it, these people hate it, right? You know what I mean? I know you can relate, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking real estate, and he's like, I'm telling him about some things I'm doing. He's telling me about some things he's doing. And then we start talking about, tenants and placing tenants and having to potentially remove tenants. And the conversation comes up I'm like, oh man, that must have been a nightmare. And he's like, what do you mean nightmare? I had a problem with a tenant. I got rid of them in like 3 weeks. And I'm like, 3 what? He's like, 3 weeks. And I'm like, no.
3 weeks.
So that one sentence, knowing about the landlord-tenant board here and how difficult it can be to get around.
It's excruciating.
Was like enough for me to go, bing, let me hear more. And if anyone knows me, I dive deep into, when I get tunnel vision on something, I dive deep. I learn everything about it, and I mitigate risk as much as possible. So I sat there, had the discussion, probably picked his brain for the next 3 hours, chatted with him again probably 50 times in the next month, and then was like, that's it, I got to know everything about this. I want to learn everything. So a lot of people think they want to invest in the States, and they go and they jump in and they buy something, and unfortunately sometimes they didn't learn enough, or they didn't join hands with a person that can help them enough. And I think that's a mistake. So I learned everything I could up to that point, and then got connected with the right people, went down there multiple times, and learned everything I could about a couple markets. And you kind of met Gary, and where we are now, and we dove deep, and we can talk about anything else you want to about it, my man.
That's amazing.
Yep.
How long ago was that?
That was a couple years ago, and so I actually dedicated just over an actual year of learning, because here's the thing about America. It's like once you open the door to a room, we'll call it, right? You're like, whoa, there's a lot to learn in this room. Man, there's a lot to learn in this room. So I learned everything that was in that room. I learned about the laws, landlord-tenant laws. I learned about taxation, cross-border legalities.
These are very, very important questions that are burning up.
Very important things. Taxation, legalities, entity structures, rent roll, Section 8. I learned about all these little things people talk about in this room. And then you realize that, there's another door I got to go through. I opened that door up, and I was like, whoa, there's a whole lot more to learn. And in America, it's different from Canada in the sense that every state can be very different. And even counties within each state can be very different as they pertain to laws, as they pertain to... There are little things that, without getting into too much detail on a podcast that we only have so much time for, that it's very important that you know and understand the little details in laws, the way that title works, the way that insurance works.
Even the escrows are like 30 days, 40 days.
Escrows are different. The process of closing is different. The process of, there are things in Ohio that different counties and communities that have these different rules. It's kind of like, here it would be almost like a bylaw that if you're buying it, the seller is obliged to do a whole bunch of work on the property depending on the way it was inspected. And so if you buy that property, you'll have that responsibility on the back end. There's all sorts of little things that you need to know that, like I said, I kept opening these rooms and learning more. And before I was comfortable going down there, of course, first with my capital, and then of course with investor capital, I always needed to make sure that I have all of the answers I need before we jump in, right?
That's amazing. And being a dual citizen makes it a little bit easier.
That's an understatement, my man. Yeah, a lot easier. Yeah. And what I mean by that is not to discourage Canadians, but it's just the truth. I mean, it's like any country. You're a foreign national. So we talk a lot about not just lending. So as a foreign national, there are a lot of restrictions to a Canadian in terms of how you can borrow, right? So if you're not going down there with cash to buy a property outright, and you actually need some kind of lending, whether it be mortgage, whether it be construction funds, whatever it might be, your qualification is far more stringent, and then the rates are obviously not as favorable. So those sorts of things, right? Being a dual citizen has helped me in that regard, and then partnering with both Canadians and Americans also helps. So like I said, there are a lot of things that we've hosted webinars and we put live events on, which we spoke about, which it's very advantageous for Canadians to come and to look and to listen, to learn about all these sorts of things, and then make a decision for themselves. Do I want to jump in on my own, or do I want to kind of passively invest the first time? What makes the most sense for me to learn about this market and take advantage of it, but not make some of the same mistakes other people have made.
Whenever you guys have something set up as a tour out there, let us know. We're going to let our people know. We have so many people asking about the States right now. It's other programs like Wealth Genius and all these other programs are pushing the States. And a lot of investors are saying, hey, what about the States, Manny? Because I'm a realtor. I'm a realtor. And, as the rates gone up here, things don't cash flow. Things don't make sense financially here sometimes. If you're doing, if you're going to do the appreciation game, possibly. But if you're, trying to cash flow, It's
Yeah.
very, very difficult.
Well, I'll tell you what, and I mean, I'm always real, right?
Yeah.
I'm never going to bullshit anybody. And the truth is this: the grass is not always fully greener on the other side. What I mean by that is this: the opportunities in the U.S. are definitely more. It's 10x Canada everything, right? So if we just use simple numbers, there's 30 million people here. I know it's more than that now, but 300 million there. There's the same amount, 10x the lenders, 10x the opportunities. But what I always say to investors when they come to me, and trust me, I get the overwhelm as well at the events and at we get a ton of people asking. I always say to people, take a step back first, rather than just looking at this shiny object that is America. First, self-reflect. Ask yourself. You need to not just look at it like I just want to get a property. I want to cash flow on a property. You need to say, okay, what is my overall financial goal? What is my kind of end goal, per se, not end, but 5-year, 10-year, whatever it might be. And let's work backwards on that goal, because for some folks, they think I want to cash flow. But in reality, if you can go down there, you can buy a duplex or triplex tomorrow, and you're going to cash flow a couple $100s on that property. Is that really going to change your life? Is that really what you need? I would say, let's look at what you're like. How much cash flow are we talking here? Are you looking to replace your current income? Are you looking to leave your job? Which I know for a lot of investors from COVID, that was their goal. Some other folks like, listen, man, I love my job. I want to diversify my portfolio. I want to passively invest and I want to earn a good return. So you really need to know what your goals are. And if your goals are to replace your income, going down and tying up some capital in an opportunity that may seem like a great opportunity for $300 in cash flow may not be the best decision for you, right? And there's a lot of groups, to be candid and open, that are doing tours and different things for people. And the grass isn't always greener. You got to always ask yourself, what's the incentive sometimes for what's going on here? I mean, is the opportunity the best for me as possible? So, educate yourself, go to as many events as you can, listen to our webinars, come to our events, and really learn and ask all the tough questions so that you can achieve your goal. And it's individualized. The guy sitting beside you is there as well. You're not competing with him.
No. Everybody's got everybody's at a different stage in their life.
Yeah.
Everybody's got different goals in mind. And you know what? Like, we don't have enough time to ask all the questions that I want to ask you. So we're going to have to follow it up with some kind of seminar.
Hey, listen, you absolutely, my man, deliver as much value as we can to people, right? And just make sure that people that come, like, you and I are the same way. We're family first oriented, and we have a community of friends, investors, coworkers, people we love, that when they're in our inner circle, like it's family, right? And we want to give them the goods in terms of information and opportunities as best as possible, right? Like, we're the same way that way. And
of course.
So for sure, like, anytime we have an opportunity to give people information that can improve their lives and help to prevent them from making mistakes, that's what we're all about.
That's the value. And I told you, I'm actually going out to Ohio, and I said, you know what, I hope you can make it that time.
Yeah.
Because you know what, like, I see that there's a lot of passive investors right now. A lot more people are timid to invest, and actively right now, especially they don't have a team. And you hear all these horror stories with contractors and property management companies and realtors too. Let's be real. There's some shady realtors out there. They're scared. A lot of people are scared, right? And I have had a successful property tour, and I see a lot of people are like trying to diversify. There's people that are trying to leave their 9-to-5. There's people that are trying to make a little bit extra. And there's a lot of people that are like, okay, I got this money, but I don't have the team. And as much as you try to provide them the value and say, hey, you can use my team, this and that, sometimes it's probably best for them to do passive investing.
I think it's really wise to, at the very least, start there from experience, right? Like, if you can take what we call the investing strategy we use, and then the structure we use is like a GP-LP structure, which stands for general partnership and limited partnership. You picture it being like this: the GP or the general partnership is our team. Those are the active folks that do this for a living. So they negotiate on the asset, they acquire the asset, they put the team together, they are the team, they stabilize the asset to bring the value up. The limited partners are the folks who are investing their money in the deal. It's called limited limited partner because they have limited liability, right? So they don't have the liability involved that the GP does, and they reap the benefits of the return. But the beautiful part of it is that you learn by being an investor in that process. You can learn how the GP runs the deal. You can learn to the extent where for that minority of folks in that LP that maybe want to eventually be part of a GP, they can learn what roles are involved there.
And the LP is kind of like a silent partnership.
It's a silent passive partner where you're investing.
Like a JV, that's a silent JV.
Exactly.
So we call it JV. So
it's the same thing. It's a joint venture.
Okay, joint.
And it's the terms are interchangeable. If you say the active partner is the GP and the passive partner is the LP.
You know what? I'm all about OPM and other people's money.
Right.
And you know what? Like, I have been successful doing flips for people. I've been successful JVing with people. And, last year was a tough year, man. It was a tough year.
For many reasons.
We were doing well. We were doing great. And then we went crazy. We bought a bunch, and we got stuck.
That seems to be the story I've heard from a lot of people.
We got stuck, and, we're still covering the cost and everything, right? We had a couple duplexes that we caught with and everything, thank God, blessings and everything that we're, paying the mortgage and everything. But we were hoping for a better return, but the market just, it went down south. And now those JVs are like, okay, what's next when we get out of this, Manny? Because we are going to get out of this.
Yeah, good.
We're going to see, the sun come out again and the storm is over.
That's a great story, and thank you for opening up with that because, obviously, and being in the mortgage side of things, I see a lot of it, and we've helped a lot of people out of that. But the advice, too, in that same vein, and you're saying it now, and I can hear it at the end of your statement is, it's important to have a long-term mindset. A lot of people, when they are going through a market cycle, this is just a market cycle. So people who've been around long enough, you've seen market cycles. This is a market cycle. It happens. But if it's your first time as an investor, you think that, oh my God, this is like the world's ending. It's a market cycle, and the market cycle will shift. I won't provide my exact predictions. Actually, I posted one on Instagram the other day. If you'll see it there. So the market cycle is shifting, and if you can either weather that storm, on your own because you can carry the property, or if you need help, readjusting things, let us know. We can help you with that. But I do always recommend hanging on. Because the cycle will come around, you will make the money back on that.
You're 100% correct.
It's going to happen, and that capital will be returned, and you will be able to utilize that in another venture like the U.S. or like another deal here. But the best advice is, this is a market cycle. What you're experiencing is the same thing that 99% of people are experiencing. So it's okay. Don't panic.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the best thing to do to hang on to that asset, ride that cycle back up, and then you'll be in a position to do other things.
And you hit the nail on the head, buddy. You panic is where people lose money. When they panic sell, you know what I mean? Or they panic buy because you're buying and you haven't run your numbers right and you haven't did the worst case scenario, or you're selling and you're, oh my God, I'm going to lose more if I hold on. I'll give you a prime example. This is completely different from real estate. Bitcoin.
Yes.
Bitcoin dropped to $20,000. I'm in Bitcoin. And I could have panic sold. It just hit $92,000 yesterday.
I was just going to add an excellent point. It's the same thing in any investment or any cycle in general, or any cycle in life. I mean, the reality is that life has its cycles, and every relationship and every investment and everything you have, life has its cycles. And if you're constantly selling at the bottom and buying at the top, you're never going to win. And that's an emotional investor, right? So having the guidance and mentorship of folks that can hold your hand through it, that have been through it, is really, really, really important. Even just to provide that reassurance that, and I have JV partners locally here in Hamilton, and I can think of one partner in particular, and she's really, really bright, has a great job, and she asks all the right questions. And I love to see her learn through the process and then get through one market cycle and be like, oh, okay, I see now. This is good. This is cool. And I see the maturation process in her, and I know that she's going to be able to do this on her own when we're done doing it together because she's learned through that, right? Exactly. So yeah, no, it's very important.
And the maturity of, like, now I've done so many projects. I remember the first project, I was panicking over little things. And now the big things happen, I'm like, I have JV partners. I'm like, don't worry, I'll take care of it. They're like, why are you so calm? I'm like, I've been through this.
Seen it, yeah.
And it goes back to team. It goes back to who your support staff is, who you work with. When I'm stuck, I have a power team that I could connect with.
Yeah.
When Nate's stuck, I know Nate has a power team that he connects with.
The team is everything. We talk about people see Manny, out front, whether it be with your real estate team or whether it be at events or whether it be with a media that you're building a media empire. I know in the background, right? I know what's happening here, but it's like the same thing. People see Nate, but Nate is not Nate. Nate is part of a team, whether it be people see my sons. My wife is the president of my family. You know what I mean? Hey, honey, I got you, honey. I know. But the same thing goes for our investing teams, right? It's like the same thing goes for you met Gary, right? We have an investment.
Great guy.
We have an investment team for that particular GP. For another building that we're looking to acquire, there's another team there, and that team behind that face of whoever it might be is going to be, in some cases for real estate, an appraiser, a lawyer, a team of accountants, construction contractors, property management. You got people on site. Our mortgage team has a team, right? And it's like everybody is part of the piece. Everyone that's part of the puzzle is very, very important. Every piece is equally important, and that's how you succeed. So being able to identify folks that have good teams means that, okay, if I join this team, man, my success rate just went through the roof.
I know you're a hockey guy.
Indeed.
I know you're a hockey guy because you're talking about team. Because I played hockey.
Yeah, I saw that picture you posted. I was like, what? And I saw someone be like, Manny, you play hockey?
I know. Yeah. Brown guy playing.
Everyone thinks you're a soccer player. Yeah, right? Yeah. Right?
Imagine 15 years ago.
Hey, yeah, trust me. Listen, man.
Being the only guy.
No, you're right. You're a hockey and team guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I remember I was on a team, and the best player on my team, when I wasn't having a good game or I made a mistake, I get down. I'm rough on myself. Anybody that's an entrepreneur is really hard on themselves, right? And I remember him tapping me on the back. He'd be like, man, it's okay. Next time. I learned the essentials of teamwork through hockey. Because in hockey, everybody has a role. You have the enforcer. You have the goal scorer. You have the assist man. You have everybody that's playing these roles. You have the defensive defenseman, you have the offensive defenseman, and in life it's very similar to that.
Man, I'll tell you, hockey is and it's not just because of the sport hockey, but sport in general. But I'll tell you, the foundation of all of my strong characteristics, I'm going to tell you, came from sport and hockey in particular. And the reason why is that, like I said, I grew up, originally I was like mediocre when I was really young, like 8, 9, 10, 11. And then I had a really good coach, and I had a couple people who really, really committed to me. I've always had an all-out, die-hard, never quit attitude. And so it's like I worked harder than everybody else. I was nowhere near as talented as them, but I worked harder than everybody else. And it was like, so slowly, year after year, after a decade, I got to a point where I was on a team and I was named captain. Awesome. And as a kid who was, I don't know, probably 12 or 13, the first time I was a captain, it was my whole world. It meant everything to me. And I had a coach, thank goodness, who changed my life, because he taught me about, a minute ago you were talking about something, and I would say the word is leadership. Yeah. And I learned how to be a leader. And then I was captain for 5 straight years there and in my high school team. And the biggest honor of my life at that time, up to the point before I ever had kids, was being a leader. And a leader of other people. And that's a skill and a trait that I've carried through my whole life. The two things, I speak a lot and I talk about two traits, discipline and consistency.
Makes sense.
And being consistent is just doing something consistently no matter what over time, and being disciplined to do it.
It's extremely important. Discipline is extremely
it's
important.
so important. And so having those traits, and being a leader and having leadership skills in this team environment that is real estate investing, it's essential. It's absolutely essential for success. You can't go without it.
110%. Actually, I got my name Manny from my coach. He's like, you know what? I'm going to call you Manny. I can't say your damn name. I'm going to call you Manny.
That's awesome.
And then I was like, okay. And I remember I scored a goal that game. I'm like, he's like, now I remember your name.
It's Manny forever now. That's it, right?
And you know what? I got away from playing hockey. Got into soccer and all the other, brown sports. I love you guys, brown guys. You know what I mean? But I grew up in Canada. I'm a Leafs fan. I'm sorry.
Hey, you're gonna have some people. You're gonna have some hate mail. Yeah, for sure.
But
the Habs fans.
I've been playing ball hockey, snowing. Take your net to the park. Back in those days, there's no nets. You take it to the park, play hockey, playing ball hockey, roller hockey, ice hockey, and I stayed away from hockey for 20 years. Just talking about how you could always come back.
Good for you.
After 20 years, I started a men's league.
Yeah.
And nothing feels as good as smelling that ice.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. I thought you were going to say smelling the gloves, but that's the ice. Yeah,
the
you're right.
ice.
Okay, good.
You know how it is when you're in minor hockey, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., you're on the ice. And back then they were playing Nirvana and Metallica. It was like, okay, I'm not listening to your music, but okay, I'm jamming to it. And I learned a lot about it. Learned a lot about, different cultures and everything, obviously how to navigate through that, right? And hockey taught me a lot of life lessons. And that's why what I see what you're talking about, I'm like, you must have picked up the same lessons that I picked up through hockey, because hockey was a team sport. There is no I in hockey. You could be the best player, but you're not going to win the team game.
Yeah, you're right. It's one of those sports, like, it's not like basketball where one guy can dominate. In hockey, you're only on so long, right? It's not like you could stay on the whole time like in basketball.
Exactly.
It's, you're not a pitcher that can really kind of dominate a game. In hockey, it's a team sport, and you need to lean on each other. And like you said about your friend a minute ago, pick up your friend if he's down, if he's upset, if
and
he's down
that's
himself.
the only sport that I've seen that was like that.
Yeah.
I've played basketball. There's a lot of ego and arrogance, a little bit, a little bit.
Yeah, no, you're right. In hockey, it's a big deal, and we can use that analogy, like you say, in anything, whether it be in your work environment, in this case, in real estate, where you pick each other up, you educate, At events, I see it a lot. One thing I loved about the real estate community when I first got into it, in terms of going to events and meeting people, is that of all the different trades and work environments out there, if you're in sales, it's like, it's a cutthroat. Like, people will look at you and be like, hey, what's up, Manny? Man, listen, don't. And then behind your back, it's like quite often, depending on the industry you're in, it's fake. Real estate investing, in my opinion, is genuine to the point where when I first started, I reached out to people and was just like, hey, listen, man, like, can I pay for your time? I just want to pick your brain. I want to learn. And almost every single person was like, no problem, anytime. Gave me all the time in the world I needed, whether it be a call, whether it be a coffee, whether it be anything. Never asked for anything, even though, listen, kids out there, offer to, buy somebody lunch or whatever, you can pay for their time. But listen, everybody in the community of real estate investing was more than happy to sit down, talk, share their experience, just so that you could not make the same mistakes they made. And that's a beautiful thing about this community. You don't get that in other industries.
That is a beautiful thing. And you know what? I just started doing events like last year. Market got a little bit slower. I'm like, you know what? I want to try something new. Go to these events. What it's all about.
That's where we met.
That's where we met at the events. And I was just like, my first event I went to, and I actually helped with the videography and everything. It was a sold out event, and I met so many great people, and we're still friends. Like, I met Taco there, we're still friends. And then I kept going to these events, and I'm like, man, like, what? I've been missing this the whole time.
It
like,
feels good, right?
Yeah, it feels good,
feel
and you're learning, and you're getting to meet people, and I've met people that I've done deals with at events, and I'm just like, I know the real estate market was crazy for the last 2 years. We didn't have time to eat right, work out right. Like we were go. It was crazy. But now that it's slowed down, last year would have slowed down. It gave me the opportunity to take a step back and say, hey, what am I not focusing on? So I got involved in the videos. I got involved with the events. I never did videos 1 year ago. If you look on my Instagram, like zero, nilch, nothing. Getting comfortable with that and not finding mentors. Like the shout out to Jazz Tekar, great mentor for videos.
Oh yeah,
great.
Jazz is incredible.
Yeah. I don't know if you met Jazz. Like in learning and getting over these obstacles and that you have to get over to gain the confidence to speak in front of a video. It's not easy.
It's not easy. It's actually the biggest fear that people have, public speaking, putting themselves out there. And in fact, a lot of the events that people put on, there's usually always a speaker on trying to convince people in real estate to, tell a little bit about your story, come out there a little bit. I know that some people don't want to do that on social media, but it is true. It's inside us. It's that fear, like being judged. What are people going to think? And all these sorts of things. Or what are my family going to think? Or what? But you know what? It's true. Once you start to open up, what happened to me when I started was that the world of phenomenal people opened up. It was like, wow. And I have so many friends, I would call them friends, that I've met because of events or because of, at some point in time we connected on social media and then we ended up meeting at an event somewhere. And it's like, wow, phenomenal people. I just had coffee with a good friend the other day who now I would consider him a friend. He's a realtor. I've done some work for him in the mortgage side and we had a coffee. We were just laughing about, wow, we met literally on a DM and it was like just from opening up, because when someone's authentic online, which is another big thing, you can feel the realness. And it's like when you meet them in person, like, man, you're just like you appear online.
You're just like you are online.
So cool, right?
Exactly.
And the people that you naturally gravitate to.
Exactly. And like I said, when I met Taco and we're doing the Grow Network together and we're doing a bunch of stuff. We met him at an event. And I wanted to touch on another Avenger on your team that I had on not too long ago, Gary. Great guy, very knowledgeable. Actually, I was watching Gary's stuff prior to even doing videos because he's very knowledgeable. He always has great guests on his podcast. So how did that come about? How did you guys meet?
Great question. And I can tell you that I absolutely love Gary and his wife, Darlene. They're beautiful people. He's an amazing human being. And how I met Gary is in the industry, again, just from knowing somebody who knew somebody. In event, we would see each other at events, and then we saw each other on. This is how it usually starts, right? I see his stuff online, or I'm listening to his podcast. Shout out to his podcast. His podcast is incredible.
Podcast,
Real Talk with Gary. So I'm listening to his podcast, and then I'll comment on things. He'll comment on things, and then we see each other and bump into each other at an event. And it organically evolves. We realize we have a lot aligned. And then what happened was we actually spoke at the same event. So there was an event that was put on, and he was a speaker, and I was a speaker. And then after the event was done, we were like, hey, great job. That was incredible, Gary. It's nice to finally actually formally meet. So we chatted, and he's like, hey, listen, Nate, I got to have you on my podcast, man. Your story, your life. People know about my wife and all the obstacles she's gone through health-wise, and being Miss Fitness Canada, and then my kids and real estate. It was like, he's like, I gotta have you on, right? So I ended up saying, of course, anything, right, Gary? So I did a podcast with him, and that relationship evolved like anything, where when you naturally align with a human being in all areas, we both, we love our wives, we're family men, we love our kids, we're dedicated to that, we love our business and our investor group and the people that Gary's like me. And one thing that drew me to him is that he cares so much about the people in his inner circle, more so than almost anyone I know. To the extent where when we started to do actual business together, it was like an unsaid kind of vetting of each other, right? Like you know what I mean? Because it's if I'm going to let you in this circle with all my people over here, I got to make sure that you align with me, kind of thing. Unwritten rule, right? Yeah. And Gary and Darlene and Neil, have a community of people that they care so much about, which resonated with me, and I do the same thing. So that was a natural fit. And once we started having the discussion, and again, them knowing that I was already in the U.S. Made that natural progression there, and since then it evolved, and we've got a team in place now. We've got investor groups put together. We're working with.
And you guys
with
are
a few
doing
other
presentations.
people.
I got one of my clients sent me, "Hey, you heard of this guy Nate?" I'm like, "Nate, Nate who? Are you talking about Nate Dogg?"
Yeah, you know.
He's
it,
like, "Send me the presentation." I'm like, "I know Nate."
Yeah.
He's like, "What?" And I messaged him like, "Yeah, I got your presentation. Good job, man." Like
U.S. investing.
U.S. investing presentation. That's great that you guys are doing that.
Yep.
That giving people that value and that knowledge for them to make that decision of if this is for them. That's massive, man. That's
Thank you.
You
Thank
know,
you.
and like you
Thank
guys are doing a great job. Like Gary, how I met Gary myself. I'll tell you a quick story. I went to like one of these trade shows. I don't know what it was. It was like a real estate trade show. Yeah. One of my mortgage brokers like, "Hey, I got a booth. You want to take it?" I'm like, I don't know. I had a team. I'm like, "Okay, let's go. Let's take it." And he was speaking at the event, and I met him. And I was like, "Oh, nice. Nice to meet you, whatever." I didn't know I was going to cross paths with him through people I knew, with Danielle and everything. Like, it's a close-knit community.
Yeah, it is. It's very tight. Very tight.
We hung out a few times, and then I seen him at Danielle and Corey's event. And, we got to do a podcast, man.
Yeah.
We got to do a podcast. So had to have Gary on the podcast, and great guy, a lot of knowledge, and I love what he does out there. Because I told him, I'm like, man, I aspire to be like you, man, with the stuff you're doing, because the stuff you're doing, I'm just starting to do.
He's very inspirational.
You know,
he is very in the real estate world, especially for real estate agents, real estate reps, real estate brokers. He's very inspirational. And you know, the thing I like about Gary too, his podcast is called Real Talk for a reason. Gary's real, right? He's like us. He's like me. We say it the way it is, and we live it the way it is. And he will tell you, part of his story often on stage is where he came from, working at the bank and seeing that his future was like not at all financially secure being here, and then getting into real estate, how he started.
He said
right?
he told us the story.
He goes through it all, right?
It was amazing.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to feel the realness. And then the persistence to pursue and keep going and keep going and keep going.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's inspirational.
Yeah, I love it, because you know what? This is the place I get to know people. Our podcast, having people over, getting to know Nate was a chubby kid with freckles.
Yeah, man.
You got me, man. I was like, Nate was always an athlete, with bodybuilder.
People see the fitness pictures, and they think, oh, this guy's got it easy. You know, I like to tell the real part of it. This is the reason why, too, because it's like, listen, man, like whatever it is that you feel is an obstacle in your life. Usually for me, I'm telling people about health and wellness. And for guys, it's often like, you know, they have this they can't get rid of, or they want to build that up. And it's like, listen, man, like people see me and sometimes they think, oh, you've always been jacked, you have good genes, or this kind of stuff. And no,
it's funny, you get a lot of that when you're in good shape.
And the truth is that, like, no, like, you know, like anything that I've achieved, you can achieve. Anyone can achieve, right? So it's like, I want to make everyone feel like, you can, if it's a health goal, if it's a you know, the way you look goal, if it's a financial goal, if it's a business goal, if it's a family goal, you know, you can achieve it. Like, you 1,000% can achieve it. You know, you can do it, man. I'm here to like help you out in any way I can.
You're inspirational. I see what you're doing on Saturday mornings. I see you, man. I see you with that good life.
Right? Yeah.
You're helping, you know, the McKay team, and honestly,
that.
that's great, man. That's great, because you know what? That's an inspiration. The first thing about feeling good is being healthy. The first thing is to be in shape, because if you're not in shape,
your confidence level isn't there. I appreciate you recognizing what we do on Saturdays. You know, I can say again, like, I love those guys and girls that come out on Saturdays, and this is not my initiative, right? I mean, they were already doing it, and then, you know, my good friend Sandy and Mike were like, hey, you know, I mean, it was very soft. It was like, you know, you want to like come out, or do you want to? And I was like, listen, like, if I can, I would be honored to come out and help you guys out. And so it turned into like a fun thing we call it. Well, I named it the Real Estate Warrior Workout Day, right? Where we come out there, and pretty well everyone's in real estate. They're pretty well almost all agents, but me for the most part, right? But I'm not a real estate agent. But it's funny. So we put them through a workout, and you know what? When we're done, you're gassed. You know, you push yourself to the limit, which means that the rest of your day seems easy compared to the start of your day, 100%. And you've accomplished something, right? And you know, people are getting healthier. A lot of guys have lost tons of weight. They're feeling good, and their businesses are excelling as a result of it. So, oh man, like, you know, like, health and wellness is my anchor.
No, feeling great, it just boosts you for the rest of the day. I know working out, getting that cold plunge, getting that cold shower, that dopamine that you get from that, you know, you can't get that anywhere else. You can't
Yeah.
get that. And like, you may get it from a like, or you may get it from a coffee, but it lasts so long, right?
Yeah, and the
But
motivation.
feeling good and strong and feeling that confidence that you gain by being healthy. And I have friends that are bodybuilders. You met one of the guys there. These guys are bodybuilders. I'm the smallest guy.
Yeah,
And I'm like this. I'm like, I want to hang out. I want to work out with the bodybuilders.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I want to get like those guys. I want to elevate, right?
The motivation is in the results too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you start to see results, you start to get more motivated by the result, and it keeps you going. Whereas a lot of people drop off. We do a lot of resiliency. Like my wife is a resiliency coach and fitness coach, and she talks a lot to people about resiliency and being able to stick to it. Because the biggest problem people have is they don't know how to stick to it, right?
It's discipline. It's a lot of discipline.
Yeah, it's like learning some of the small little skills to actually be able to stick to it, right? And that's so important. But you're right. Once you start to get the results, the confidence goes up, you feel better, and then the rest of your life is literally better. And the relationships with people are better, your business is better, you're more confident, everything is better.
And eating good, and it has a lot to do with eating good too, because whatever you put into your body, you're actually putting out in the world.
That's the most daunting part for everyone. I've done a lot of presentations on health and wellness and nutrition, and the most daunting and the most I would say the part that people have the biggest misconception is nutrition. And it's not their fault. It's because you got all these things now. You got keto, you got paleo, you got macros, you got what the heck is all this stuff? Intermittent fasting. What do I do? All this kind of stuff, right? So it's like real estate investing. There's all these terms. I'm like, what do I do, right?
Yeah.
So it's important for people to make sure that they just get themselves in one track mind. Maybe hire a nutritionist just once, just to teach them a little bit that they need to learn about nutrition, and then just have consistency. Just if you're doing nothing right now, just go for a walk. Start off with one walk.
Maybe some push-ups.
Start off with just one thing. Don't overwhelm yourself, right? And just little by little, you'll grow.
100%. So Nate, I know what you guys are up to right now. It's brewing. It's about to come out to the surface.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to let us in a little bit about what's happening right now with you guys? I know you guys got some big multifamilies.
Yeah, for
that
sure.
You guys are
I'd be happy to.
talking about, possibly offering out to investors. I seen the video with Gary. Gary did a great job. That 88 unit building is still stuck in my head. That one line made me said, I got to check this place out. You remember you said you had that one line?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. That one line, I'm like, I got to check this place out.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. Our this particular team that we have in place, we've where everything is structured and set up, and that team right now, it involves some of the guys that you talked about, and we are acquiring buildings in the States. We're looking at 2 different markets, and these buildings will be for the purpose of us implementing our strategy, which is a value add strategy, to increase the value with passive investors to be able to give them, really, really good returns. So without getting into too much detail on it, the opportunities are going to be plentiful for people in Canada.
Is it possible to do BRRRR strategies in the States?
Well, the reality is that what we do is a BRRRR in theory. We do a BRRRR in large scale. So for those people who aren't familiar with the BRRRR, basically the idea is that you buy the place, you renovate it, you rent it, you refinance it, then you repeat it. So we are using that strategy in large properties. So not on a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex, a tenplex, but maybe on something that's larger, like a 50-unit building. And the idea is the same in that when you strategically buy an undervalued asset, you implement strategic renovations to it, you use the laws that are in your favor to increase rents, then the value goes up in correlation to what you're doing. You can refinance it. The investors get their capital. They retain equity in the property, and it's an infinite return, right? So
That's amazing.
it is. It's something. I mean, we've done it. We've used the strategy. We're the difference now is that we are going to be more public about it and have more of an offering for people to be able to allow more people to take advantage of it. That's the difference.
That's amazing. So how are the laws with construction? Like, the biggest hurdle that we have here is city, is bylaw, is permitting, and the
Yeah.
city of Hamilton's been down for God knows 3 weeks now with the cyber
Yeah.
attack. Is it the same in the States, or are they a little bit more lenient when it comes to bylaw permitting? And I know you're doing bigger scale, but same thing.
No,
You
no,
need
I've done
permits,
smaller
you know?
stuff as well. No, it's a good question. It's an excellent question. And I would say when it comes to the States, you asked, is it the same thing? Almost nothing is the same. And I don't mean that in that everything is superior. I mean that, like, you know, that's why you have to actually check every single box. You can't take anything for granted. And yeah, there are, it depends on the county, the region. Like, just like here, you know, you can go up north and there are some small towns that you can, you know, go walk into the bylaw office and, you know, bring a coffee to the guy sitting there in lunch, and he'll be like, yeah, no problem. Whereas, you know, you're not going to get that in Hamilton, right?
No,
But in the
no.
U.S., it's again, making sure that in the county you're working, in the district you're working, the strategy you're using will comply with their particular guidelines. So we check all that out in advance.
So that was my next question. Do you guys do all the homework, and you say, hey, don't worry, investors, we've already did this homework for you?
The best way for me to explain it is this: I went down there on my own capital, everything first, because I don't want to get involved with a city, a community, anything with anyone else's capital
Makes sense.
until I've used my own. You know,
that's what I'm thinking right
it's
now.
kind of
too.
like giving somebody like a workout plan. Like, if I just make one and give it to you, I don't even know if it's going to work. Let me do it first and make sure it works.
Try, tested, and true.
Try, tested, and true. So going down there first and making sure like I told you, I'm very risk averse. You know, like I make sure that I check all the boxes, mitigate all the risk, and I don't have all the answers, but I find people that do, right? If I don't have the answers, someone in my power team.
So you have a team there.
We have a full team there. Full
So
team.
like realtor, accountant.
Realtors, we have commercial realtors, residential realtors, several cross-border CPA accountants, several cross-border attorneys.
Great.
Several managing agents, property managers, construction teams. It all depends on what we're doing and where. And you know, it took a long time to put this together, and in partnership with, you know, the people that I connected with that were already there, of course, again, is how we were able to assemble these teams. So it's not just a fly by night. Like I said, I went down there for a year and a half before even right. So it's not
So
just a
you've
quick
done
thing.
all your homework. You've crossed all your T's, dotted all your I's on.
Everything's done in that regard. Yeah, and like I said, we did it with the intention not to, like, I'm not taking on partners to go and let's JV on a triplex. That's not what I'm doing at this stage right now. There are people that will do that, and I can help people out in that regard. But what we're doing now is we're taking on larger assets to be able to provide investors with really good opportunities for their invested capital.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
More calculated. I mean, to be honest with you, it's actually easier and more calculated with a larger asset that we, you know, I grew up in buildings. Like, my whole life has been apartment buildings in multifamily, and we can control the asset. The asset we can control. You know, we can't control the market, but we can control the asset, and we mitigate risk that way. So we're going ahead and we're implementing the strategy on these assets. You know, taking a duplex or triplex, people see these things on wholesaler, on Facebook, online, and how you can get a $30,000 house.
Yeah, 20,000, 30,000.
Yeah, that's in life. If something sounds too good to be true, it
probably
probably is.
is.
And if you're going to try to remotely flip an asset like that, be wary. I've seen personally, and I've known people who have got themselves into trouble doing that.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't recommend it just because of you see the dollar, the price on it. The same thing goes for here. You buy an asset in the wrong street, and I don't care what it's priced at. It's not a good buy.
The only difference is like in those areas, there's guns.
There's guns. There's that part too. I won't even. The first time we did a tour down there, we actually had to have an armed security guard with us with a vest on. I'm not kidding.
There you go. So that leads me to my next question.
Yes, sir.
When are we going down together,
Yes,
man?
sir. Well,
We're going down together. We got to do this.
Listen, I told you I'm going to be down there next month a couple times. I'm going to be spending a lot more time down there, and
we're going to do Manifest Part 2 down there. The Manifest tour.
There you go. Right. US
I want to
edition.
do a Cleveland tour. You know what? You got the connects. You know the city. Let's go. You got the lay of the land. I want to broadcast it to people here. I want people here to know what the possibilities are, and for them to know there's a power team.
Yes, that's important.
And that's super important because that's like I wouldn't invest unless I had people there, right? And I'm like you. I'm like, I want to check it out myself. I want to dibble dabble myself.
Like Gary and like
You know?
Neil, like I brought them down there as well. Same kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Vet it out, check it out, feel the lay of the land. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's important. I would recommend anybody do that. Listen, we're talking about one city here. I want to make it clear, unequivocally clear. There are a lot of great cities across America, and in fact, the inventory and the deals are becoming more and more difficult to get in Ohio. I mean, because a lot of people are in there. So unless you are already connected with the right realtors, it's difficult to find a deal like here, right? I mean, like you're seeing a deal that it's already been looked over by 8-9 people.
Oh, it's been touched by everybody.
So the same thing goes down there. So it's also important. I mean, there are a lot more markets than just one. You know, a couple of good friends of mine who are Hamilton guys, they're down in the States as well, and you know, they know like I do that there's other markets. We talk about Texas again being flooded right now, but a good market. We talk about Missouri and Arkansas and South Carolina and North Carolina. There's other markets, right? So if you're serious about it, I would say to your audience, you know, don't just listen to this podcast and settle on one thing. Ask if you don't want to be passive. If you want to be passive, that's fine. You can find people like us. That's great. But if you want to be active, a little more active, do what I did. Don't just pick one city, one town, one market. Ask the right questions. Go more than one place. Really, really be diverse in your education and your research.
Yeah, and there's nothing like actually going there, feeling it, touching it, seeing the neighborhoods. Like for me, I'm a realtor, so I can look in a neighborhood and I can be like, okay, this is not the neighborhood. I'm from Hamilton. I was pretty much raised in Hamilton.
Yeah.
So I've seen stuff.
Yeah.
Now, is it to the same degree? Probably not. It's probably a little bit different. It's the States, right? But it's always good to take that trip down there. So which leads me to my next question. Are you guys going to offer some tours down there?
At this point, we have not scheduled tours, and for a few reasons. One is because, quite frankly, I don't have the time at this point to. I'm not a real estate. I don't have a real estate investing coaching platform. I'm not a coach. I'm an asset manager. I like to make acquisitions and provide investors with good returns on a deal. That's my priority, right? Not necessarily to take a bunch of people down. That's a feel-good experience. There are people that do that, and I think that's great. Like I said, I'm not looking to grab partners to jump on triplexes and duplexes and own 100 of them.
You're looking for
so that's not something we're looking to do right now. I do think that the opportunity will come up at some point, maybe later in the year, maybe early next. But acquiring assets right now is our priority. Showing people that, doing events, live events here, definitely. But, like hosting tour bus events.
What about walkthroughs of projects that you're working on?
Yeah, most definitely, right? And even that can be done virtually.
That's true.
Yeah, and that can be done, because the reality is that there's a lot of moving parts. Like, I've been to boots on the grounds. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot involved there. Our realtor partners and our, the assets we're looking at, we don't want to be just constantly disrupting them with multiple tours on things.
That's true.
It's not necessarily in good faith if it's for our own incentive and they're being disrupted constantly with something that's not providing them with reciprocated value, right? Let's be honest. I don't want to take advantage of that relationship. So to be completely candid and transparent, like investor tours is not something I'm planning on doing anytime soon. But there'll probably be a point in time where it'll make sense for people. Maybe once we have a portfolio of assets under like a fund, which is kind of like another discussion. Definitely like a not long term,
like
but
REITs or something,
like a midterm vision that we're looking at.
Yeah.
When that happens, I think it'll make a lot more sense, but not in the near future.
Okay, great. What about other states? What do you see Nate and his team doing? Do you guys see yourself going into other states, possibly Texas, you mentioned, Florida?
I can tell you very specifically that we are, I'm a big fan of hammering down one strategy, one location first. Don't spread yourself too thin, because I don't want to be mediocre at two things. I want to be really, really good at one, right? So the idea right now is to kind of dominate where we are. And that, won't take too long, for me to be comfortable with that. And yes, I've been to Texas. I was just there a month ago, looking at,
I've seen your videos, man. Those are great prices. And I was about to say, Nate, buy me one.
Yeah, I know. No, we're looking at assets in Texas. I do think that, state-wise, things may change between now and the time that we diversify into a new state. But there are a few, as I mentioned a minute ago, that are good options, and there are good opportunities there. And again, it just depends on the asset you're looking for, the strategy you're implementing, all those sorts of things. But we do like Texas, we like Missouri, we like South Carolina, we like North Carolina, we like Arkansas. I mean, you could pick any one of those. If you're going to do the work, then it can make sense.
That's amazing. Well, Nate, thank you so much for coming on, brother. A wealth of knowledge. We got to sit down and talk about a seminar because there's just so much to cover.
Yeah.
Like you said, you open one door and there's 15 other doors.
Yeah.
Today you open 4 doors. I have 15 other doors.
I know.
Now I have questions about.
We'll do that. Like I said, I am going to be doing, talks, upcoming events that are going to be, U.S. based. Our team will be there, but I would love to put something on for your community, your listeners in particular, just very specifically U.S. investing, kind of like why the U.S., why the market
101, just like why the startup.
Taxation
it's
questions.
Super important.
There's about a top list of 8 to 10 questions that everybody would have, that I would have. And
I have the taxation question myself.
You're right, so we can cover those things for sure.
Yeah,
it would be my honor. I'd be happy to.
Thank you so much, Nate.
Pleasure's mine.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.